Ishii Hanako, born in 1911, was a Japanese woman orphaned at a young age, growing up in poverty and forced to take manual labor jobs to survive. She was neither an aristocrat nor highly educated, yet she possessed a natural beauty with sparkling cat-like eyes, a round face, and a charming, sensitive personality. Hanako loved books, music, and had a unique allure that captivated those around her. She worked as a waitress in a bar in Tokyo's vibrant Ginza district, an area bustling with Western-style pubs. Little did anyone know that during the tense and harsh years of Richard Sorge's operations in Japan, the life of this legendary figure was warmed by the passionate love of a young Japanese woman.
Sorge had been married twice before, first to Christiane Gerlach in 1921, divorced in 1929 due to his focus on espionage work, and then to Ekaterina Alexandrovna Maximova, a Russian woman, married in 1933 but divorced remotely in 1943 while he was imprisoned. These relationships were not enduring, largely due to his double life. Yet in Ishii Hanako, a humble Japanese woman, he found true love amidst the harsh realities of his tense years in Japan. Hanako Ishii was the beautiful Japanese woman whom Sorge cherished deeply. She was dignified, loyal, and preserved an indelible memory of him, remaining devoted to him until her death. Thanks to her, Russians have had the opportunity to visit the resting place of this legendary spy. Their first meeting took place on October 4, 1935, Sorge's 40th birthday, at the Rheingold, or Rheinhold, a German-style bar in Tokyo, where Sorge often visited to relax and gather information. At the time, the graceful and sensitive Japanese woman was working at the bar. Their relationship began with simple conversations about life, European literature, and music. Sorge, with his captivating appearance, tall, curly-haired, with mesmerizing blue eyes and a warm voice, quickly won Hanako's heart. They became friends, then lovers, and within a few months they were living together. Hanako always considered Sorge her true husband, despite the fact that they were not legally married, as Sorge was still married to his Russian wife. She loved him passionately and strove to make his life comfortable, becoming his concubine according to the customs of the time.
Hanako described Sorge as a warm man, sometimes vulnerable and full of emotion. He loved listening to classical music by Beethoven and Mozart, reading philosophical works by Marx and Hegel, and even Russian novels by Tolstoy. He cooked simple German dishes for her, like sausages and mashed potatoes, and they often strolled through Tokyo together, visiting ancient temples like Sensoji and Asakusa, sitting by windows watching the rain fall on Ginza's streets, or sharing small stories about their childhoods. Sorge told Hanako about Baku, the chaotic oil city where he was born, with the smell of oil and the Caspian Sea breeze, about the war wound that left him limping, and about his belief in communism as a way to save the world after the tragedy of World War I. In return, Hanako taught him Japanese, local customs like the Cherry Blossom Festival, Hanami, how to eat sushi and sashimi, and even introduced him to local friends, including Hotsumi Ozaki, a journalist for Asahi Shimbun, who later became a key member of Sorge's Ramsey intelligence network. Their relationship was both romantic and deeply strategic, aiding Sorge's success as a spy. In An Impeccable Spy, Richard Sorge, Stalin's master agent by Owen Matthews, the author emphasizes that Hanako served as a perfect social shield. As a Japanese woman living with him, she helped Sorge blend into Tokyo's community, avoiding suspicion from the notoriously brutal Kempeitai, Japan's secret police. Hanako often concealed his covert meetings and even saved his life during a serious motorcycle accident in 1938. After a drunken night at a party with German officials, Sorge crashed his motorcycle and was seriously injured. Hanako rushed to the scene, hid intelligence documents from the police, and cared for him in the hospital. Matthews also notes that Sorge used Hanako to gain a deeper understanding of Japanese psychology, which helped him accurately predict Japan's decision not to attack the Soviet Union. However, their love was also a vulnerability. Sorge's drinking worsened under the pressure of his work, and Hanako frequently urged him to cut back, worried about his health. In Japan 1941, Countdown to Infamy, by Eri Hoda, the author analyzes how in 1941, as Japan prepared to attack Pearl Harbor, Sorge fell into a severe mental breakdown because Stalin ignored his warnings about Operation Barbarossa, Germany's invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941. Hanako recounted in her memoir and interviews with Vsevolod Ovenikinov that Sorge's nerves were shattered. She could hardly imagine that a man as strong as Richard could cry in despair without shedding tears. Hanako embraced him, stroked his back, comforted him, and tried to soothe him, becoming his only source of solace amidst the storm of war.
Other romantic moments were tinged with tragedy. They often spent weekends in Tokyo's outskirts, visiting places like Lake Yamanaka or hot springs, onsen, where they could forget the outside world and enjoy moments of peace. According to her memoir, Sorge once told Hanako, "You are my only refuge in this storm." Sorge was a womanizer, maintaining other relationships to uphold his cover, including with German women at the embassy. Hanako was aware of this, but accepted it, as her love was unconditional, and she understood the sacrifices his work demanded. She even indirectly participated in his network by passing messages or hiding radio equipment. This demonstrates the strength of women in history. Hanako was not a spy, but her love indirectly contributed to Sorge's achievements, which saved millions of lives. On October 18, 1941, Sorge was arrested by the Kempeitai for espionage after his Ramsey network was exposed through another member. He was brutally tortured in Sugamo prison, beaten, hung upside down, and interrogated relentlessly. Hanako was the only one who visited him in prison, an act of courage despite the risk of being implicated. After Sorge's arrest in 1941 and his execution 3 years later on November 7, 1944, Hanako was also detained but released after 6 days of questioning, as investigators believed she was innocent and unaware of his espionage activities. For a long time, Hanako knew nothing of her husband's fate or that of his comrades. In 1945, after Japan surrendered to the Allies and the American occupation, she saw his name in a brief article in an American military newspaper, such as Stars and Stripes, revealing that he was a Soviet spy and had been executed. Immediately, Hanako sought out lawyer Asanuma, or Mutanam, who defended Sorge at his secret trial in 1942. Together, they persistently requested access from the Sugamo prison and cemetery authorities to locate and rebury her beloved husband. They mocked and belittled her, dismissing her as a poor former waitress, but ultimately yielded to her tenacity. In 1949, Richard's coffin was found in a plot among the graves of vagrants and the homeless at the prison cemetery. Hanako recognized her husband by his familiar leather belt buckle, gold dental work from a war injury, the scar of an old wound on his leg from his limp since World War I, and the rubber boots he often wore. Unable to afford a proper reburial due to the harsh post-war conditions in Japan, marked by inflation and food shortages, she could only afford to cremate his remains. She kept his ashes in an urn at home for about a year, holding it each night as she once held him. Yet this determined woman found a way to raise the necessary funds. She wrote her memoir, Ningen Zoruge, about the spy, sold the rights, and earned enough to purchase a plot in Tama Cemetery in Fuju, Tokyo, Japan, a serene cemetery with cherry trees and a lake. Hanako brought the urn to the cemetery, placed it in the grave, and erected a stone inscribed with Hero of Peace in Russian and Japanese, along with his full name. She personally tended the grave, planting flowers around it and keeping it pristine for the rest of her life.
Hanako lived until 2000, receiving a pension from the Soviet Union and later Russia, starting in 1964, when Sorge was posthumously awarded the title Hero of the Soviet Union by Khrushchev, recognizing her role as his wife and the guardian of his legacy. Before her death, she added details to the reissued memoir, preserving his memory not as a cold spy, but as a deeply human figure full of emotion. Her ashes were buried beside Sorge in accordance with her wishes, fulfilling their eternal love. Nippon.com, a reputable source on Japanese history and culture, published a detailed article in 2018 about their grave, with photos and the story of how Hanako honored their love, making it a symbol of post-war peace. Sorge was a great spy who warned Stalin about Hitler's invasion and Japan's plans, saving millions of lives and altering world history. Through Hanako, we see that love can soften even the hardest hearts. It transcends borders, German-Russian versus Japanese, politics, communism versus militarism, and even death. Hanako was not just a lover, she was the keeper of his legacy, transforming Sorge from a shadow of history into a human icon. She kept his grave clean, planted flowers, and welcomed Russians to visit, making it a place of pilgrimage. Her memoir helped us understand Sorge not only as a spy, but also as a profound scholar of Japan, thanks to her influence on his understanding of its culture and society. From a broader perspective, their love is a symbol of love's power to transcend borders. Sorge, a fervent communist from Baku, found peace in Hanako, an ordinary Japanese woman. Through Matthew's lens in An Impeccable Spy, we see Sorge as a flawed man, an alcoholic, a womanizer, with at least 3 or 4 concurrent relationships to maintain his cover, yet fiercely loyal to his ideals. The Times, London, once described him as a drinker, a womanizer, but a perfect spy. Hanako did not speak of his alcoholism, womanizing, loyalty to ideals, or perfection as a spy. Instead, she protected him, transforming him into a hero. In today's world, as Russia proposed in 2022 to exhume Sorge's remains to return them to Baku or Moscow, according to a Russia Beyond article, the fate of Hanako's ashes raises an ethical question. Will their love be separated once more? This story reminds us that behind every historical hero lies a simple yet eternal love story. The legendary love between Soviet spy Richard Sorge and Japanese woman Ishii Hanako is not merely a love story, but an epic of love's strength amidst the darkness of World War, international espionage, and immense cultural barriers. The content we've discussed is based on the most reliable sources, from Hanako's direct memoir, Ningen Zoruge, The Human Sorge, the detailed biography An Impeccable Spy by Owen Matthews, based on archival records, in-depth historical articles from Nippon.com, interviews and articles by Soviet journalist Vsevolod Ovchinnikov, and additional materials from The Guardian, The Times, The New York Times, Japan 1941 Countdown to Infamy by Eri Hata, academic analysis in Japan Review, and even the YouTube video Hanako Ishii, Biography and Life Companion of Richard Sorge, to provide a comprehensive, detailed picture. Thank you for listening patiently. See you in the next episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.